Imani's hands were 2 seconds from breaking a mob enforcer's wrist when she realized this was definitely not covered by her malpractice insurance. "Listen carefully," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding her system. Her thick thighs were braced against the treatment table, her 280 pounds of solid presence creating a barrier between the bleeding man on her table and the 3 armed men who just kicked down her clinic door. "You can shoot me, threaten me, wave those very impressive guns around all you want. But this man has a punctured lung, and if I don't decompress it in the next 90 seconds, he dies. So either let me work or explain to your boss why his top earner bled out because you interrupted a medical procedure." The lead enforcer, a man with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, actually hesitated. His eyes flicked over Imani, clearly seeing a fat woman in scrubs instead of the highly trained medical professional who just diagnosed his colleague's condition in under 10 seconds. "You?" he scoffed. "You're the doctor they're all talking about?" Imani didn't look up from her patient, her hands already moving with practiced efficiency. Surprised? "Let me guess. You expected someone smaller. Newsflash. I can do both gym time and save lives. Now shut up and hand me that 14-gauge needle, unless you want to mop up the mess." The enforcer's face flushed, but he complied, because even prejudice has limits when someone's dying. Behind him, somewhere in the chaos of her ransacked South Side Chicago clinic, she could hear her assistant Keisha screaming into a phone. "Who are you?" Scar Eyebrow demanded. "Dr. Imani Okoro, and you're in my house." She didn't look up, her strong hands already finding the exact intercostal space she needed. "Now step back. You're blocking my light." What happened next would change everything. And before we go any further, if you've ever been underestimated because of how you look, hit that subscribe button right now. Because Imani's about to show an entire criminal underworld that dangerous doesn't come in one size. Drop a comment telling me about a time someone underestimated you and lived to regret it. Now let's rewind to where this beautiful disaster actually started. 12 hours earlier, Imani had been having a spectacularly normal Thursday, which meant dealing with the usual microaggressions that came with being a fat black woman running a medical practice in America. "Are you sure you're qualified?" Mrs. Patterson had asked that morning, her 3rd visit this month, still questioning Imani's credentials despite the diplomas covering her office wall. "It's just, physical therapists are usually more athletic looking." Imani had smiled, the same professional smile she'd perfected over years of this nonsense. "Mrs. Patterson, I have a doctorate from Northwestern, 12 years of clinical experience, and I've successfully treated over 3,000 patients. My body size has 0 correlation with my medical competence. Now, shall we work on your shoulder, or would you like to continue insulting the person trying to help you?" Mrs. Patterson had the grace to look embarrassed. That was the thing about being fat in medicine. People saw her body before they saw her mind. Imani had spent her entire career proving that excellence wasn't measured in pounds. Better, actually. She had the statistics to prove it. "Last patient canceled," Keisha announced, poking her head into the treatment room. Keisha was Imani's receptionist, sometime assistant, and full-time voice of reason. She was a tiny black woman from Atlanta, with box braids down to her waist and opinions about everything. Which means you can actually go home at a reasonable hour for once. Revolutionary concept. "What would I do at home?" Imani finished her documentation. "I don't know, maybe live your life? Go on a date? Remember what fun feels like?" Keisha perched on the desk. "Speaking of which, that guy from the coffee shop asked about you again. The one with the nice smile. The one who asked if I was trying to lose weight before asking me out? Oh, right. Never mind, he can go straight to hell." This was Imani's life. Men who were attracted to her but needed her to apologize for it first. Dates that started with, "I don't usually date bigger girls like that," was supposed to be flattering. She'd stopped apologizing for her body years ago. Stopped trying to shrink herself to make other people comfortable. But it still stung. Every time. "I'm fine being single," Imani said, and mostly meant it. "Men are exhausting. Not all men, just the trash ones. Keisha's phone buzzed. She frowned. Weird. What? Text from a number I don't recognize. Says they need emergency PT willing to pay cash tonight. She showed Imani the screen. Imani's clinical instincts immediately fired warning signals. Emergency physical therapy wasn't really a thing, not unless someone was trying to avoid official medical channels. Tell them we're closed, Imani said. Give them the ER number. They're offering $3,000. Cash. Imani paused. $3,000 would cover her equipment loan payment, the overdue electric bill, and maybe, possibly, food that wasn't ramen for the next month. For one session? That's what they said. Every rational bone in Imani's body screamed this was a terrible idea. Nothing good happened at midnight for $3,000 cash. Tell them no, she heard herself say, even as her bank account wept. Something's wrong with this. Keisha nodded, already typing a polite refusal. Good call. Your instincts. The clinic's front door chimed. Both women froze. It was 9 p.m. The door was locked. The lights were dimmed. Imani grabbed the closest thing resembling a weapon, which turned out to be a resistance band. Keisha picked up a stapler. Together, they looked like the world's least threatening defense force. The man who walked into the reception area made Imani forget how to breathe. He was Korean, maybe early 30s, with the kind of face that belonged on billboards. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that held too much knowledge, black hair falling across his forehead. He wore an expensive suit torn at the shoulder, and he was bleeding from somewhere under his jacket. But what struck Imani most was the way he moved. Each step was calculated, controlled, like someone had taught him to turn his body into a weapon and he'd never forgotten the lesson. Dr. Okoro? His voice was deep, accented, and absolutely exhausted. I apologize for the intrusion. How did you get in here? Keisha demanded, stapler raised. He glanced at the door with something like embarrassment. I'm very sorry about your lock. I'll pay for repairs. Imani's eyes narrowed. You picked my lock? Technically, I bypassed the mechanism. Less damage that way. He swayed slightly, catching himself against the wall. I understand this is irregular, but I need help, and every hospital in the city has been told to refuse me treatment. Why? Because the people I work for prefer to handle medical issues internally, and the people who want me dead prefer I not receive any medical attention at all. His smile was dark humor wrapped in honesty. I'm what you might call professionally problematic. Keisha looked at Imani with wide eyes that clearly said, absolutely not. Imani looked at the blood seeping through his jacket, at the way he was breathing, shallow and careful. She looked at his eyes, saw pain, desperation, and something that looked like hope. Keisha, go home, Imani said quietly. What? No. Imani, go home. Lock the door behind you. If I'm not at your apartment by midnight, call Detective Morrison. Imani kept her eyes on the stranger. And take pictures of him before you leave, front, side, back, for evidence. The man actually smiled at that. Practical. I appreciate practical. Keisha took the pictures with her phone, muttering in Spanish about stubborn women and terrible decisions. She left, and the lock clicked. They were alone. Exam room, now. Imani pointed. And if you try anything stupid, I have a very loud voice and 3 neighbors who own guns. Noted. He followed her. Imani flipped on the bright exam lights, pulled on gloves, and turned to face him. Strip to your waist, slowly. Keep your hands where I can see them. He complied, each movement deliberate. His torso was a map of violence, old scars layered over older ones, beautiful tattoos winding across pale skin, knife wounds, bullet grazes, burns that looked like torture. But the fresh injury was obvious, a deep gash across his ribs, still bleeding. What's your name? Imani asked, already cleaning the wound. Han Jun-seok. What happened, Jun-seok? Disagreement with a business associate. This business associate have a knife? Several. Imani worked in silence, assessing. The wound needed stitches, lots of them. His ribs were probably cracked. He had defensive wounds on his forearms. Why can't you go to a hospital? I told you. The real reason. Jun Seok met her eyes, and something in his expression shifted. Because I fight for the Kang Group. Underground circuits, illegal matches. If I go to a hospital, they report the injuries, police get involved, the operation gets exposed. My employers would rather I die than risk their business. And the people who want you dead? Competing organization. They've decided removing me would shift the balance of power in their favor. He said it like discussing the weather. They're probably right. Imani's hands paused. She'd treated plenty of questionable patients, but this was different. This was organized crime. I should throw you out, she said. Probably. This is going to bring problems to my door. Almost certainly. I could lose my license, my clinic, possibly my freedom. All accurate assessments. Jun Seok's voice held strange gentleness. I'm offering you $3,000 to make a terrible decision. If you're smart, you'll refuse. This is going to take about 40 stitches, she said, reaching for her suture kit. Local anesthetic, internal and external closure. You're going to be here for at least 2 hours. Can your people live without you that long? Something like relief flickered across his face. They'll manage. And the competing organization? Probably don't know I'm here. Yet. That's not reassuring. I'm not here to be reassuring, Dr. Okoro. I'm here to not bleed to death on your floor. Call me Imani. If I'm committing professional suicide for you, we might as well be on a first-name basis. She prepared the anesthetic. This is going to sting. What happened over the next 2 hours shifted something fundamental in both their lives. Imani worked with focused intensity, her hands steady despite the chaos this represented. Jun Seok proved to be a surprisingly cooperative patient, following instructions without complaint. You're good at this, he said at one point. I'd better be. I have 6 figures in student debt that says I'm good at this. From Lagos to Chicago, that's a significant journey. Imani glanced up, surprised. How did you know I'm from Lagos? Your accent, subtle but present, plus the university banner in your office. You did your residency at Northwestern. Observant. Survival skill in my line of work. Imani finished a particularly tricky section of internal stitching. Tell me about it. The work. Why? Because I'm stitching you back together, which makes me complicit. Might as well know what I'm complicit in. Jun Seok was quiet for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he started talking. He'd been fighting since he was 17, recruited from a gym in Seoul where he'd been training to escape a father who used fists instead of words. The Kang Group had promised money, purpose, a way out. What they'd actually provided was a cage with better lighting. 10 years of fighting, 10 years of broken bones and concussions, of learning to turn his body into a weapon, of winning matches that enriched men who saw him as property. Can't you leave? Imani asked, starting the external sutures. The Kang Group doesn't do exit interviews. You fight until you're too broken to fight, then they discard you. Or you die in the ring. Those are the options. That's not options. That's a death sentence with timing variables. Accurate. He met her eyes. Why are you helping me, Dr. Imani Okoro from Lagos? You know what I am. You know the danger. Why risk it? Imani considered the question while she worked, her dark hands moving against his pale skin. Because everyone deserves medical care, she said finally. I don't care if you're a saint or a criminal or something in between. When you're bleeding on my table, you're just human. That's enough. Something in Jun Seok's expression cracked open. That's dangerously idealistic. I've been told that before. She finished the last stitch, bandaged the wound with careful precision. 43 stitches, internal and external. Keep it clean and dry. Change the dressing twice daily. No fighting for at least 3 weeks, preferably 6. Jun Seok laughed, but it was bitter. I have a match in 5 days. Main event, biggest purse of the season. Then you're going to tear these stitches, damage the underlying tissue, and probably cause permanent injury that will end your career faster than taking time off. Not my choice. There's always a choice. Not in my world. They stared at each other, an impasse of worldviews. Finally, Jun Seok stood, moving carefully, testing his range of motion. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket, thick with cash, and set it on the exam table. 4,000, he said. The extra is for your luck and your discretion. I don't take it. You earned it. He pulled his shirt back on, wincing slightly. And Imani, thank you for seeing me as human. Most people don't. He walked toward the door, and Imani heard herself say, Jun Seok, wait. He turned. When this match damages my work, when you tear these stitches and cause complications that could have been avoided, come back here. Let me fix it. Don't suffer alone because someone else made your choices for you. His smile was sad and genuine. You really are dangerously idealistic. So I keep hearing. After he left, Imani counted the cash and tried to convince herself she'd done the right thing. She had no idea she'd just made herself essential to a man who was about to become the most wanted person in Chicago's underground. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever helped someone knowing it was probably a mistake? Drop a comment and let me know. Hit that like button if you're invested in this story, and make sure you're subscribed, because what happens next is going to change everything. 5 days later, Imani was reviewing patient files when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Dr. Okoro. A woman's voice, professional and urgent. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm calling from an underground medical facility associated with the Kang Group organization. We have a situation with one of your patients. Imani's stomach dropped. I don't know what you're talking about. Han Jun Seok, you treated him 5 days ago for a knife wound. He had a match tonight. The stitches held, but he's developed complications we can't treat here. He's asking for you specifically. What kind of complications? Severe tactile defensive reflexes. Anyone who touches him triggers violent involuntary responses. He's broken one doctor's nose and dislocated a nurse's shoulder. We can't treat him if we can't touch him. Imani, process this. Her clinical mind already running through diagnoses. Neurological response to trauma, PTSD-induced defensive reactions. Why me? Because you're the only person he's ever allowed to touch him without triggering the response. He says your hands feel different, safe. Dr. Chen's voice held both desperation and professional respect. I know this is asking a lot, but if someone doesn't help him soon, his nervous system is going to shut down completely. Where is he? Dr. Chen gave her an address in a warehouse district Imani had specifically avoided for years, until now, apparently. I'll be there in 30 minutes, Imani heard herself say, but I'm bringing my assistant, and if anything feels wrong, we're leaving immediately. She hung up and immediately called Keisha. Please tell me you're calling to say we're going somewhere fun, Keisha answered. I need you to come with me to a warehouse in the industrial district to treat an illegal underground fighter who's having a neurological crisis. Silence. Keisha? I'm still here, just reconsidering all my life choices that led to this friendship. So you're coming? Of course I'm coming. Someone needs to document this disaster. They met at the clinic. Imani grabbed her emergency kit. Keisha brought pepper spray, a taser, and a baseball bat. Overkill, Imani asked. Practical preparedness, Keisha corrected. The address led them to a converted factory. 2 men in suits that didn't hide their weapons stood guard outside. They searched Imani's bag, found only medical supplies, and waved them through. One of them did a double take when he saw Imani, his eyes flicking over her body with obvious surprise. You're the doctor? He asked, skepticism dripping from his voice. Imani fixed him with a look that had intimidated better men. I'm Dr. Okoro, yes, and unless you have a medical degree you'd like to share, I suggest you step aside and let me do my job. The man flushed, but moved. Inside, the warehouse had been converted into something between a medical facility and a luxury apartment. State-of-the-art equipment, but no official licensing anywhere. Dr. Chen met them in the lobby. She was a small Korean woman, mid-40s, with exhausted eyes. Thank you for coming. She shook Imani's hand with genuine relief. He's in the secure treatment room. We've had to restrain him, which is making the defensive responses worse, but we couldn't risk more injuries to the staff. Show me. They followed Dr. Chen down a hallway that smelled of antiseptic and desperation. Keisha stayed close, her hand in her purse where the pepper spray waited. The secure treatment room had padded walls, reinforced restraints, monitoring equipment, and in the center, strapped to a medical table, was Jun Seok. He looked worse than Imani had ever seen him. Sweat soaked his hair, his eyes were unfocused and wild, and his body was rigid with tension. Every muscle locked, fighting restraints, fighting his own nervous system. Jun Seok, Imani said softly, approaching carefully. His eyes snapped to her, and something in his expression shifted. Still wild, still fighting, but with a flicker of recognition. Imani. His voice was raw. They won't stop touching me. Make them stop. I will. But first, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? I don't trust anyone. Fair. So let's say you're going to tolerate me because the alternative is worse. That got a strangled laugh from him. Accurate. Imani turned to Dr. Chen. Everyone out. Just me and my assistant. But if he has a violent response, Keisha will hit him with pepper spray and will restrain him properly. But I can't work with 6 people hovering. Out. Now. Dr. Chen hesitated, then nodded. The room cleared. Keisha positioned herself near the door, pepper spray ready but expression calm. I got your back, Imani. I know. Imani approached Jun Seok slowly, her movements telegraphed and deliberate. I'm going to check your vitals first. Just my hands on your wrist. Nothing invasive. Tell me if you need me to stop. She touched his wrist gently. Jun Seok's entire body tensed, muscles coiling like springs. His breathing accelerated, pupils dilating, classic fight-or-flight response. But he didn't attack, didn't pull away, just shook with the effort of staying still. Good, Imani murmured, her voice low and soothing. You're doing great. Heart rate is elevated, but that's expected. I'm going to check your pupils now, just a quick light in your eyes. Keisha, in my bag, there's a syringe marked with blue tape. Grab it for me. Keisha complied, moving carefully. What is it? Jun Seok asked, his voice tight with suspicion. Midazolam. It'll calm your nervous system enough that we can do a proper exam. Not enough to knock you out, just enough to take the edge off the panic response. No drugs. Jun Seok, no drugs. Can't be impaired. Too dangerous. Imani met his eyes, seeing the genuine terror there. This wasn't stubbornness. This was survival instinct from a life where being drugged meant being vulnerable, meant being dead. Okay, she said gently. No drugs. We do this the hard way. But that means you have to work with me. You have to tell me when you're at your limit. Deal. What followed was the most challenging medical procedure Imani had ever performed. She examined Jun Seok with infinite care, her hands moving slowly, narrating every touch before she made it, giving him time to prepare. When his defensive reflexes started to spike, she'd stop, back off, let him breathe. Keisha watched with wide eyes. Girl, you're like a nervous system whisperer. More like I'm the only person stubborn enough to work with someone this traumatized. But Imani smiled as she said it, because slowly, gradually, Jun Seok's body was starting to relax under her touch. Why you? Jun Seok asked at one point. Why can you touch me when no one else can? Imani considered the question while she checked his reflexes. Maybe because I'm not trying to fix you or control you. I'm just trying to help. Your body knows the difference. That simple? Trauma's never simple, but trust can be. By the time she finished the exam, 2 hours had passed. Jun Seok was exhausted but calmer, his defensive reflexes still present but manageable. Diagnosis? Dr. Chen asked when Imani emerged from the room. Severe neurological trauma response, probably PTSD related. His nervous system is so hypervigilant that it interprets any unexpected touch as an attack. The match 5 days ago probably triggered a cascade response, made everything worse. Treatment? Specialized therapy? Neurological retraining? Teaching his body new response patterns? It'll take months, maybe years, and it requires someone he trusts enough to tolerate extended physical contact. Dr. Chen's expression was grim. The Kang Groupant authorize months of therapy. They need him fighting. He's their top earner. Then the Kang Group is going to lose their top earner to permanent neurological damage. Imani crossed her arms. You can't fight if you can't let people touch you. You can't train, can't receive medical treatment, can't function in the world. Without treatment, he'll deteriorate until his nervous system shuts down completely. How long? 6 months. Maybe less if he keeps fighting. Every match, every injury, every traumatic incident makes it worse. The silence was heavy. Finally, a new voice spoke from the shadows. Then we authorize the treatment. Imani turned. The man who emerged from the hallway was older, Korean, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than her clinic's annual budget. His eyes were sharp and calculating. I'm Kang Min-jun, he said. I own Jun Seok's contract. If you can fix him, Dr. Okoro, I'll pay whatever you require. Imani's skin crawled. The casual way he said own, Jun Seok's contract, like Jun Seok was property, made her want to punch him. I'm not fixing him, she said carefully. I'm treating a medical condition, and my patient is Jun Seok, not you, which means his treatment plan requires his consent, not yours. Kang Min-jun's smile was sharp. Idealistic, I like that. Impractical, but admirable. He pulled out a business card. Name your price, Dr. Okoro, within reason. I don't want your money. Everyone wants money. Then I'm not everyone. Imani met his gaze without flinching. If I treat Jun Seok, I do it on my terms. Private sessions at my clinic. No observers. No interference. And absolutely no fighting until I clear him medically. Those are my conditions. Non-negotiable. The room went very quiet. Keisha made a small sound that might have been a prayer. Kang Min-jun studied Imani with the intensity of a predator, assessing prey. His eyes flicked over her body again, clearly trying to reconcile this woman with the iron, while she was displaying. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. Jun Seok? Mr. Kang turned to the treatment room. Your opinion? Jun Seok's voice came from inside, still rough but stronger. I trust her judgment. Even if it costs you fights, costs me money? Even then. Another silence, this one charged with different energy. Fine, Mr. Kang said. Your terms, Dr. Okoro, but understand this. Jun Seok is valuable to me. If he doesn't improve, if he can't fight again, you and I will have a very different conversation about your role in that outcome. It wasn't quite a threat. It was definitely a promise. Understood, Imani said, refusing to show fear. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to discuss the treatment plan with my patient, privately. Back in the treatment room, with the door closed and Keisha standing guard, Imani sat beside Jun Seok's table. You know you just made yourself a target, he said quietly. I'm aware. The people who want me dead? They'll come. After you now. You're connected to me, which makes you leverage. Also aware. And you still want to do this? Imani looked at this man who'd somehow become her responsibility, who'd trusted her with his deepest vulnerability, who'd never asked to be anyone's property. Everyone deserves a chance to be whole, she said. Even underground fighters with mob connections and terrible life choices. Maybe especially them. Jun Seok's smile was soft and genuine. Dangerously idealistic. So you keep saying. What neither of them knew was that outside the warehouse, a black sedan had been parked for the last 2 hours. Inside, a woman with cold eyes and colder intentions had been taking photographs. Imani leaving the warehouse, Imani's license plate, Imani's clinic address. The woman made a phone call, spoke in rapid Korean, and drove away. The war had just begun, and Imani Okoro had painted a target on her back without realizing it. Over the next 3 weeks, Jun Seok came to Imani's clinic every other day, always at night, always with security outside that made her neighbors nervous, always moving like violence on a leash. But slowly, gradually, something started to change. The therapy Imani designed was part neurological retraining, part trauma recovery, part building trust, one careful touch at a time. She'd work on his defensive reflexes, teaching his body that not every touch was an attack. It was painstaking work. Some days, Jun Seok could tolerate 15 minutes of contact before his nervous system overwhelmed him. Other days, they'd make it 2 minutes before he had to retreat, shaking and hyperventilating. But he kept coming back, kept trying, kept trusting Imani with pieces of himself she suspected he'd never shown anyone. "Tell me about Lagos," he said one night, his head resting on the treatment table while Imani worked on the chronic tension in his shoulders. This was week 2, and he could finally tolerate sustained contact for up to 30 minutes. Why? Because when you talk about home, your voice changes, gets softer. I like it. Imani smiled, her hands finding knots of trauma embedded deep in his musculature. Lagos is chaos. Beautiful, frustrating, loud, vibrant chaos. 13 million people in constant motion, traffic that makes Chicago look peaceful, markets that sell everything from cell phones to live chickens. You miss it. Every day. But I love Chicago too. Different chaos. Same energy. Why did you stay? Because the people here needed me. Immigrants, refugees, people the system forgot. I built my clinic specifically for them. Her fingers found a particularly tough knot, worked it carefully. Plus, my family didn't exactly support my career choices. My father wanted me to marry well, have children, and be proper. Becoming a doctor was acceptable. Moving to America alone? Scandal. Families are complicated. Yours too? Jun Seok was quiet for so long Imani thought he wouldn't answer. Then, my father sold me. Literally. I was 17, good at fighting, and he owed money to the wrong people. The Kang Group offered to clear his debts in exchange for my contract. He signed without hesitation. Imani's hands stilled. Jun Seok, that's human trafficking. That's Korea's underground. That's how this world works. That's not how any world should work. But it is. He turned his head to look at her. You can't fix this with therapy and idealism, Imani. Some things are just broken. I don't believe that. I know. That's what scares me about you. You genuinely believe people can be whole again. Because they can. You can. I'm owned by a criminal organization that will never let me go. How is that whole? Imani met his eyes, her hands resting gently on his scarred back. We'll figure it out. Together. That's not a plan. No, but it's hope. Sometimes that's enough. Jun Seok was quiet for a moment. Then, unexpectedly, he said, You're beautiful, you know. Imani's hands froze. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. What? You're beautiful. Jun Seok's voice was matter-of-fact, like he was stating an obvious truth. I don't think anyone tells you that enough. They should. Imani felt heat creep into her face, a mixture of pleasure and suspicion. Jun Seok, I'm not saying it to manipulate you or because I want something. I'm saying it because it's true. He shifted slightly under her hands. You command respect without asking for it. You touch me like I'm worth healing, like my brokenness doesn't scare you. You're soft and strong at the same time, and it's the most attractive thing I've ever seen. Imani's breath caught. In all her years of dating, no one had ever said anything like that to her. Men who were attracted to her usually came with caveats. I like bigger girls, or you're pretty for a big girl, or the dreaded, you'd be gorgeous if you lost weight. Jun Seok said it like her. Body was simply part of who she was, not something to overcome or explain, just her. I don't know what to say, Imani admitted. You don't have to say anything. I just wanted you to know. Jun Seok's voice was soft. In case no one's told you lately, in case you needed to hear it. They continued the session in silence, but something had shifted. something warm and complicated and terrifying in the best way. Later, after Jun Seok had left, Keisha cornered Imani in her office. "Okay, spill. What happened in there? Because you've been smiling like an idiot for the last hour." "Nothing happened." "Liar. You're glowing. I've known you for 5 years, and I've never seen you glow." Imani tried to hide her smile. "He called me beautiful." And nothing. That's it. He just said it, like it was a fact. Like my body wasn't something that needed to be qualified or explained or defended. Keisha's expression softened. "Oh, honey, you've got it bad for this man, don't you?" "I can't have it bad for him. He's my patient. He's involved with the mob. He's dangerous and complicated, and he sees you. Really see you." Imani sank into her office chair. "I'm in so much trouble, Keisha." "Yeah, you are. But maybe it's the good kind of trouble." The sessions continued. Imani taught Jun Seok breathing exercises to manage his panic responses, taught him to identify when his nervous system was escalating before it overwhelmed him, and slowly, miraculously, it started working. By week 3, Jun Seok could tolerate sustained contact for up to an hour. His defensive reflexes were still present, but manageable. He was sleeping better, eating better, moving through the world with slightly less constant vigilance. But something else was developing too. Something neither of them wanted to name, but both could feel. The way Jun Seok's eyes followed Imani around the clinic. The way her hands lingered on his skin slightly longer than medically necessary. The way their conversations had started to drift from clinical to personal, from professional to intimate. "This is a bad idea," Imani said one night, her hands resting on Jun Seok's shoulders. "What is?" "This. Whatever this is becoming. You're my patient. I have ethics, rules, boundaries that exist for good reasons." Jun Seok turned to face her, his expression serious. "Then discharge me as a patient." "What?" "Discharge me. Tell Dr. Chen I'm making sufficient progress and don't need your direct care anymore. Then I'm not your patient. Then there are no ethical violations." "Jun Seok, you're not ready." "I know. But I can continue therapy with Dr. Chen. She's competent, and I'll still see you for follow-ups, just not as my primary provider." He stood, moving carefully, and suddenly they were very close. "Because, Imani, I need to be honest with you. This stopped being just medical treatment for me weeks ago." Imani's breath caught. "Jun Seok, I'm not asking for anything. I'm not pressuring you. I'm just telling you the truth. Because you deserve honesty." His hand lifted, hesitated, then gently touched her face. "You're the first person who's ever made me feel safe. The first person who's seen past what I do to who I am. The first person whose touch doesn't make my body scream danger. That's not just medical skill, Imani. That's you." Imani closed her eyes, leaning into his touch despite every professional instinct screaming this was wrong. "This is complicated. Everything worth having is complicated. You're still owned by a criminal organization. We're surrounded by violence and danger and impossible circumstances. I know. And you still want this? Whatever this is?" Jun Seok's thumb brushed against her cheek, soft and reverent. "I've spent 15 years having no choice about anything in my life. This is the first thing I've chosen for myself in 15 years. So yes, I want this. I want you if you'll have me." Imani opened her eyes, met his gaze, saw the vulnerability and hope there. "If we do this," she said slowly, "we do it honestly. No hiding, no shame, no apologies. I'm not going to be someone's secret or someone's fetish or someone's exception. I wouldn't want that anyway. And we have to be smart. Your organization can't know, at least not yet." "Agreed." Jun Seok pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "If being with you is dangerous, then I choose danger. Every time." Imani kissed him then, soft and careful and full of all the hope she'd been afraid to feel. And Jun Seok kissed her back like she was precious, like she was exactly what he'd been searching for. When they broke apart, Imani smiled. "I'm probably going to regret this." "Probably. Jun Seok agreed, "but I'm worth it." Dangerously confident. "I learned from the best." They stood there for a moment, two people who shouldn't work together but somehow did, and outside, in the Chicago night, danger circled closer. Because in the underground, happiness was a target. Love was a weakness, and Imani and Jun Seok had just painted the biggest target on themselves possible, but they faced it the way they faced everything else, together. The attack came on a Tuesday night, 3 weeks and 4 days into Jun Seok's treatment, 6 weeks into whatever they were building together. Imani was closing the clinic, Keisha had already left, and Jun Seok's session didn't start for another hour. She was alone, which was her first mistake. Her second mistake was not recognizing the black sedan that had been parked across the street for the last 20 minutes. Her third mistake was stepping into the alley to take out the trash. They grabbed her fast and professional, 3 men in dark clothes, a hand over her mouth to prevent screaming, arms pinning hers to prevent fighting. But they hadn't counted on Imani's size being an advantage. Imani dropped her weight suddenly, dead weight, that even trained men struggled to hold. One of them grunted with the effort. She kicked backward, her strong legs connecting with someone's knee, heard a satisfying crack and a scream of pain. The hand over her mouth loosened for a fraction of a second. She bit down hard, tasted blood, felt fingers pull away. "Fucking," one of them swore in accented English. "Grab her legs!" But Imani was already fighting with everything she had. She twisted, broke partially free, and screamed with every ounce of air in her lungs. The response was immediate and terrifying. Gunfire erupted from somewhere behind her, bullets punching into metal and concrete. The men dropped her, scattered, returned fire. Imani hit the ground hard, rolled toward the minimal cover of a dumpster, her heart hammering. More gunfire, shouting in Korean, the van's engine roaring to life. Then silence, broken only by her own ragged breathing. "Imani," Jun Seok's voice, urgent and terrified. "Imani, where are you?" "Here." She stood on shaking legs. "I'm okay. Jun Seok was there, pulling her into his arms with a desperation that spoke of terror barely controlled. His hands ran over her, checking for injuries with the clinical efficiency she'd taught him, but his breathing was panicked. "Are you hurt? Did they hurt you? Tell me." "I'm okay. Bruises, maybe, but okay." She pulled back to look at him and saw genuine fear in his eyes. "Jun Seok, what just happened?" "The Hwang organization. They're the Kang group's main rivals. They've been trying to eliminate me for months, and when that failed, they decided to target you instead." "Me? Why me?" "Because obviously you matter to me." One of Jun Seok's security details approached. "Boss, we should move. They might come back." Imani processed this, her clinical mind trying to make sense of violence that followed no logical pattern. "So what do we do?" "You leave. Tonight. I have resources, money, connections. I can get you out of Chicago, out of the country, if necessary. New identity, new life. You disappear, and they lose interest. And you? I keep fighting, keep being what they made me, keep surviving." "No." Jun Seok's eyes widened. "Imani, no." She grabbed his jacket, pulled him close. "I don't run. I don't abandon you. And I definitely don't let violent criminals dictate my choices. We're going to fix this. Together." "You don't understand what you're dealing with." "Then explain it to me. Stop protecting me from information and treat me like a partner. What are we actually up against?" Jun Seok looked at her for a long moment. Finally, he started talking. The Hwang organization ran the South Side's drug trade, human trafficking, weapons smuggling. They'd been trying to expand into the Kang group's territory for years. Jun Seok was the main obstacle, the enforcer who kept their operations contained. Eliminating him would shift the balance of power, but direct attacks had failed too, many times, so they'd changed tactics. Target what he cared about. Target Imani. "They won't stop," Jun Seok said. "Not until they get leverage over me or eliminate the threat I represent. Which means you're in danger as long as you're connected to me. Then we remove their motivation. Imani's mind was racing now. They want you vulnerable? We make you valuable to both organizations. We make it so eliminating you costs them more than keeping you alive. How? I don't know yet, but I know someone who might. She pulled out her phone, dialed Dr. Chen. Dr. Okoro, it's late. Is everything? I need to speak with Kang Min-jun. Tonight. It's urgent. An hour later, Imani sat in the same warehouse where she'd first treated Jun Seok's defensive reflexes. But this time, she wasn't here as a doctor. She was here as a negotiator. Kang Min-jun studied her with cold interest. You have courage, Dr. Okoro. Coming here after the Hwang organization tried to kidnap you. Most people would be running. I'm not most people. Imani's voice was steady despite her fear. She sat with shoulders back, head high. And I have a proposal, something that benefits both of us. I'm listening. Jun Seok is your most valuable fighter, but the Hwang organization has made him a liability by targeting the people around him. Eventually, they'll succeed in leveraging him, and you'll lose your asset either way. Accurate assessment. Continue. What if we change the equation? What if Jun Seok becomes valuable to the Hwang organization too? Not as a fighter, but as something else. Mr. Kang's eyebrows rose. Explain. Imani took a breath. This was the gamble. Jun Seok's defensive reflex condition is unique. I'm the only person who can treat it effectively, which means I'm uniquely positioned to understand neurological trauma responses in high-stress individuals, like fighters, like enforcers, like anyone in your world who's accumulated enough trauma that their body starts shutting down. She pulled out her tablet, showed him the research she'd been compiling, case studies, treatment protocols, success rates. I can offer treatment to both organizations, neutral ground, medical services without allegiance. You're fighters, they're fighters, anyone who needs this specialized care. I become valuable to everyone, which makes me untouchable, and Jun Seok becomes my assistant, essential to the treatment protocols because he understands the condition from inside. You want to create a neutral medical zone in the middle of a gang war. I want to create something both sides value more than their conflict, at least temporarily. Imani met his eyes. You get healthier fighters. The Hwang organization gets access to treatment they can't find elsewhere. I get safety for my clinic and my patients. Everyone wins. Mr. Kang was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed, genuine and surprised. You're either brilliant or insane. Can it be both? Jun Seok? Mr. Kang looked past Imani to where Jun Seok stood against the wall. Your thoughts? Jun Seok moved forward. It could work. Neutral medical zones exist in war. Geneva Conventions protect hospitals. This is just applying that principle to a different kind of war. And you trust her to navigate both organizations without getting killed? I trust her to do the impossible. She's been doing it since we met. Kang Min-jun considered this, his fingers steepled, calculating angles and advantages. I'll arrange a meeting, he said finally. You, me, and Hwang Tae-yang. Neutral ground. You make your pitch. If he agrees, you have your neutral zone. If he doesn't... Kang's smile was sharp. Well, you'd better be very persuasive, Dr. Okoro. 3 days later, Imani sat in a private room at an upscale Korean restaurant, flanked by 2 crime lords and wondering how her life had become this particular brand of chaos. Hwang Tae-yang was younger than Kang, maybe late 30s, with the kind of handsomeness that came with danger. He listened to Imani's proposal with sharp attention, asking pointed questions about treatment protocols and success rates. Imani also caught the way his eyes kept flicking to her body, the slight curl of his lip that suggested judgment. She let him look, let him make his assumptions. Then she systematically destroyed every one of them with data, with evidence, with clinical precision that left no room for doubt. And what guarantee do we have, he asked finally, that you won't simply gather intelligence for the Kang group while treating our people? Medical confidentiality. It's not just ethics, it's law. If I violate it, I lose my license. And more importantly, I lose the trust that makes this whole thing work. Imani met his eyes. I'm offering medical care, not allegiance. Your fighters get treatment. That's all. And Jun Seok's role? He's my assistant. He understands the condition, can help with treatment, protocols, and frankly, he's the proof this works. 3 weeks ago, he couldn't let anyone touch him. Now he's sitting at this table, breathing normally, not escalating despite being in the same room as you. Hwang looked at Jun Seok with calculating interest. Impressive. I'd heard you'd lost your edge. Seems you found something better. I found someone who saw me as worth saving. Jun Seok's voice was steady, and his eyes flicked to Imani with something warm and genuine. Whether you see me as a threat or asset, that part's true. The silence stretched. Finally, Hwang smiled. I accept. Neutral medical zone, your clinic, both organizations get access. But Dr. Okoro? His smile turned sharp. If this is a trick, if you're gathering intelligence, if you betray this agreement in any way, the consequences will be severe. Understood. Understood. They shook hands, and Imani tried not to think about how she'd just made a deal with devils. Walking out of the restaurant, Jun Seok pulled her aside. You realize what you just did? Made myself essential to 2 criminal organizations and probably complicated my life irreparably? Yes. Also created the first neutral zone in Chicago's underground in 20 years and protected yourself, your clinic, and me in one move. He smiled. Brilliant and insane. I'm starting to think that's my brand. Jun Seok pulled her close, despite the risk of being seen, despite the security watching from nearby cars. The way you walked into that room and owned it. The way you made them see your value. Magnificent. Imani felt heat creep into her face. I just did what needed to be done. No, you did what no one else could do. Because you're you. He kissed her forehead, soft and reverent. The neutral zone worked. At least initially. Imani's clinic became sacred ground, protected by both organizations because both had interest in keeping it operational. She treated fighters from both sides, learning the particular ways violence scarred bodies and minds. Jun Seok became her partner in this, using his experience to help other fighters understand their trauma responses, showing them that healing was possible even in their world. You're changing things, Keisha observed one night, watching Imani treat a Hwang enforcer with the same care she'd give anyone, creating something that shouldn't exist. Good. The world needs more things that shouldn't exist. But peace, even fragile peace, never lasts long in the underground. Then came the night that changed everything. Imani was working late when the clinic's front door opened. She looked up and saw a woman, Korean, mid-20s, beautiful and terrified. Blood soaked her shirt, and she was cradling her arm at an angle that screamed broken bone. Please, the woman gasped. Please help me. They're coming. They're going to kill me. Imani moved instantly into doctor mode. Keisha, lockdown protocol. Jun Seok. He's not here. Yet, Keisha said, already locking doors and pulling security shutters. He's running late. Then we do this ourselves. Imani guided the woman to an exam table. What's your name? Suyeon. The woman's eyes were wild with fear. I worked for the Kang Group organization, accounting. I found something I wasn't supposed to find. Money disappearing, going somewhere it shouldn't. I asked questions. Now they want me dead. Who wants you dead? Someone high up, someone with access. Suyeon grabbed Imani's arm with her good hand. Please, I just need time. Need to get the evidence somewhere safe. Then I'll disappear. But they're tracking me. They're close. Imani looked at Keisha, saw the same question in her eyes. This wasn't a fighter seeking treatment. This was someone running from the organizations that supposedly protected this place. Treating her was a violation of the neutral zone. Could shatter the fragile peace. Not treating her violated everything Imani believed about medicine. Exam room 3, Imani said. Keisha, call Jun Seok. Tell him we have a situation. She worked fast, setting the broken arm, treating the wounds, all while Soo-yeon told her story in fragmented pieces. Money laundering, offshore accounts, someone inside the Kang group stealing from their own people. Who? Imani asked. Who's stealing? Before Soo-yeon could answer, the clinic's security alarm screamed. Someone was breaking in. Keisha appeared in the doorway, her face white. Imani, there are 6 men outside, armed. They're not asking permission. The front door shattered. Heavy footsteps, shouting in Korean. Imani made a split-second decision, pushed Soo-yeon toward the back exit. Run! My car keys are on the desk. Black Honda, alley parking, go! But I'll be fine. This is a neutral zone. They can't touch me without starting a war. Go. Soo-yeon fled. The men who entered the exam room were Kang group, but their eyes were cold and professional. Enforcers, not fighters. Where is she? The lead man demanded. Who? Imani crossed her arms. I don't discuss my patients. Medical confidentiality. The man smiled, but it was all threat. This isn't a medical situation. This is organizational business. The woman stole from Mr. Kang. She needs to answer for that. Then Mr. Kang can file charges through proper channels. We are the proper channels. The standoff might have continued if Jun Seok hadn't arrived. He came through the back entrance moving with deadly purpose, saw the enforcers, saw Imani, saw the situation instantly. Stand down, he said quietly. This is a neutral zone. You know the rules. This doesn't concern you, Jun Seok. Everything that happens in this clinic concerns me. Dr. Okoro is under protection. Both organizations agreed. The woman she's hiding isn't protected. The woman she treated as a patient is absolutely protected. Jun Seok moved to stand beside Imani. You want a challenge? That, call Mr. Kang. Get authorization, but you don't violate neutral ground without consequences. The tension was broken by Keisha's voice from the reception area. Actually, you have a bigger problem. I just sent video of you breaking into a protected neutral zone to both Mr. Kang and Mr. Huang, with timestamps. Want to bet which one calls first to ask why you're violating the agreement? The enforcers froze. The lead man's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face going carefully blank. Yes, sir. Understood, sir. He hung up, looked at Imani with barely controlled fury. Mr. Kang says we withdraw, for now. But Dr. Okoro, this conversation isn't over. They left, but the threat lingered like smoke. Jun Seok waited until they were gone before pulling Imani into his arms. She felt him shaking. Are you okay? He asked. I'm fine. Scared, but fine. You hit her, helped her escape. Do you understand what you just did? I helped a patient. That's what I do. She's accused of stealing from the Kang group. They'll hunt her, and now they'll wonder if you know what she knows. Imani pulled back to look at him. Do you think she was telling the truth? About someone inside stealing? Jun Seok's expression was troubled. I don't know, but if she was, and if she has proof, a lot of people are going to want her dead, and anyone who helped her. Over the next week, the fragile peace started to crack. The Kang group increased pressure on Imani's clinic, demanding to know where Soo-yeon had gone. The Huang organization watched with interest, wondering if this was an opportunity to exploit. Jun Seok stayed close, protective, and increasingly worried. This can't hold, he said one night. Eventually, someone's going to force you to choose, Kang or Huang, safety or principles. Then I'll maintain it as long as possible. And when it falls apart, then we figure out plan B. You don't have a plan B. I will when I need it. Jun Seok laughed, despite everything. Dangerously idealistic to the end. What if there's another option? She said slowly. What option? What if we find out what Soo-yeon actually discovered? What if we get the evidence she has and use it ourselves? Use it how? Leverage. If someone inside the Kang group is stealing, that's valuable information. To Kang himself, to the Huang organization, to anyone who wants to shift the power balance. We find the truth. We control the narrative. Jun Seok stared at her. You want to investigate a criminal organization while being threatened by said criminal organization. That's your plan? It's not a plan yet. It's the beginning of a plan. It's suicide. It's survival. Just more proactive than running. Imani pulled out her phone. I know someone who might help. She called Dr. Chen. Dr. Okoro, I was wondering when you'd reach out. You knew this was coming. I know Mr. Kang. You helped Su Yan, which means you're now part of whatever she discovered. Dr. Chen's voice was careful. I can't help you officially, but unofficially, meet me tomorrow, noon, the Korean Cultural Center. Come alone. She hung up. Jun Seok looked at Imani with something between admiration and despair. You're really doing this. We're really doing this. Together, remember? Together is going to get us killed. Or it'll get us free. Either way, I'd rather go down fighting than running. Jun Seok pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. Dangerously idealistic. So you keep saying. The Korean Cultural Center was beautiful in the heart of Chinatown, all traditional architecture and modern purpose. Imani arrived exactly at noon, alone as requested, though she knew Jun Seok was watching from somewhere nearby. Dr. Chen met her in a private room, traditional tea service set between them. You're in serious trouble, Dr. Chen said without preamble. Mr. Kang is convinced you know where Su Yan is hiding. Mr. Huang is watching to see if this is an opportunity to exploit. And somewhere in between, people are dying because of what Su Yan discovered. What did she discover? Dr. Chen poured tea with hands that shook slightly. Money laundering on a massive scale. Someone inside the Kang group has been skimming profits, hiding them in offshore accounts, using the organization's infrastructure to build personal wealth. We're talking tens of millions over the last 5 years. Who? That's what Su Yan was trying to find out when they caught her. She had evidence of the theft, but not the identity of the thief. Dr. Chen met Imani's eyes. But I have suspicions. Who? Someone high enough to access the accounts, smart enough to hide the trail, trusted enough that no one questioned their authority. She paused. I think it's Kang Min-jun's brother, Kang Sung-ho. Imani processed this. His own brother? Family is complicated in this world, especially when there's money and power involved. Do you have proof? Not enough to present to Mr. Kang, but enough to know I'm right. Dr. Chen pulled out a USB drive, set it on the table. This is everything I've been able to gather. Financial records, communication logs, patterns that point to Sung-ho. It's not complete, but it's a start. Why are you giving this to me? Because you're the only person crazy enough to actually do something with it. And because... Dr. Chen's voice softened. Because I've seen what you're building. The neutral zone, the healing work, the way you've changed Jun Seok. You've created something good in a world that doesn't believe good is possible. I'd like to see that survive. Imani took the USB drive, feeling its weight like a bomb. If I use this, if I expose Sung-ho, what happens? Civil war within the Kang group, probably. Sung-ho has loyalists, people who benefit from his theft. They'll fight to protect themselves. It'll be violent and messy, and a lot of people will die. And if I don't use it? You and Jun Seok die. Su Yan dies. And the neutral zone collapses. No good options, Dr. Okoro. Just terrible choices with varying degrees of disaster. Imani pocketed the USB drive. Then I'll pick the disaster I can live with. She left the cultural center with Jun Seok falling into step beside her. Well, he asked, we have evidence. Not enough to be sure, but enough to be dangerous. Of course we do, because that's how today is going. But Jun Seok was smiling, that dangerous edge of humor that meant he was committed to whatever came next. They returned to the clinic to find Keisha frantically trying to calm a crowd in the waiting room. Not patients, enforcers, both organizations, all armed. What's happening? Imani demanded. The Kang Group enforcers stepped forward. Mr. Kang demands your presence now. The Huang enforcers blocked them. Mr. Huang also requested a meeting, immediately. You can't both have her, Junseok said, his voice low and dangerous. Then we'll settle who has priority the old way. Hands went to weapons. The tension spiked to violence levels. Stop. Imani's voice cut through the testosterone, and she stepped forward, placing her body deliberately between the two groups. Everyone stop. I'll meet with both of them. Together. Neutral ground. 1 hour. You tell your bosses that's the offer. Take it or leave it. The enforcers looked at each other, uncertainty replacing aggression. Meetings between Kang Group and Huang were rare. Joint meetings with a neutral party were unprecedented, but they made calls, relayed the offer. 10 minutes later, they had an agreement. 1 hour, a private restaurant, neutral ground, all three of them. This is going to go badly, Keisha predicted. Probably, Imani agreed, but at least it'll go badly in one place instead of two. Before they left, Junseok pulled Imani aside. His hands cupped her face, and his eyes held something fierce and protective. Whatever happens in there, he said quietly, I want you to know something. You've changed my life, Imani. Not just the medical treatment, not just the healing. You. The way you refuse to back down. The way you walk into dangerous situations and bend them to your will. The way you love with your whole heart, even when the world tells you not to. Imani felt tears prick her eyes. Junseok, let me finish. You looked at me and saw a person. You touched me and made me feel safe. You believed I could be whole when I'd given up on that possibility. He kissed her forehead, soft and reverent. Whatever happens, know that you saved me. In every way, a person can be saved. We're both walking out of that restaurant, Imani said firmly. We're going to fix this, and then we're going to build the life we want, together. That's not hope. That's a plan. Junseok smiled, dangerously idealistic to the end. You love it. I love you. The words hung between them, real and terrifying and perfect. I love you too, Imani said, and kissed him like it might be the last time, even though she was determined it wouldn't be. The restaurant was upscale Korean, the kind where the private rooms had bulletproof walls and the staff knew not to ask questions. Imani sat between two crime lords and wondered, not for the first time, how her life had become this particular brand of chaos. Dr. Okoro, Kang said, you requested this meeting. Speak. Imani pulled out the USB drive, set it on the table. I don't know where Soo-yeon is hiding, but I know what she discovered. Money laundering, massive theft from the Kang Group, tens of millions in missing funds. Both men's expressions sharpened. Prove it, Mr. Kang demanded. Imani plugged the USB into her laptop, pulled up the files Dr. Chen had compiled. Financial records, transaction histories, patterns of theft that led back to one person, Kang Sung-ho. The silence was absolute. Then Kang Min-jun spoke, his voice ice. This is my brother. This is a thief, Imani corrected, her voice steady. Who happens to be your brother? If this is true, if Sung-ho has been stealing from my organization, the consequences will be severe. When this is true, Imani said, these records are preliminary, but they point to Sung-ho as the source. Soo-yeon was trying to gather final proof when she was discovered. That's why she ran. That's why people want her dead. Not because she stole, but because she knows who did. Hwang Tae-yang leaned back, a smile playing at his lips. This is delicious. The Kang Group tearing itself apart from inside. And you're bringing this to us, why, Dr. Okoro? Imani met his eyes without flinching. Because I want assurances. When this goes public, when Kang Group deals with his brother, the neutral zone stays intact. No one targets my clinic, my patients, or me. That's the price for this information. You're negotiating, Hwang said with amusement. With us, that takes remarkable nerve. Call it what you want. I call it survival. Imani leaned forward slightly. I know my value. I know what I'm offering you. And I know the price. Mr. Kang laughed, sharp and genuine. You really are something, Dr. Okoro. Most people in your position would be begging for mercy. You're setting terms. I'm not most people. No, Mr. Kang agreed. You're absolutely not. He studied the financial records with sharp attention, his expression growing colder with each page. Finally, he looked up. If this is accurate, and I'll need to verify it independently, Sung Ho will answer for his theft, and your neutral zone remains protected. Both organizations. Imani looked at Huang. Huang studied her with calculating interest. You've given us valuable intelligence and considerable entertainment. That earns protection. Both organizations will honor the neutral zone. In writing, Imani said, I want formal agreements, witnessed, documented. This can't be. Just verbal promises that disappear when it's convenient. The two crime lords looked at each other, and something passed between them. Respect, maybe. Recognition that they'd underestimated this woman who refused to be intimidated. Agreed, Kang said finally. Formal agreements, witnessed by both organizations. Your clinic remains neutral ground. And one more thing, Imani said, her heart pounding but her voice steady. Jun Seok's contract. Jun Seok tensed beside her. Imani, you don't have to. I'm not asking, Imani continued, looking directly at Kang. I'm negotiating. You get this information. You get the chance to clean your organization before the theft becomes public knowledge. You get to save face by dealing with it internally. In exchange, Jun Seok's contract is voided. He's no longer property of the Kang Group. He's free. The room went very quiet. Kang stared at Imani, then at Jun Seok, then back at Imani. You're using leverage to free a man you've known for less than 2 months. That's either love or insanity. Both, Imani said without hesitation. Definitely both. Mr. Kang was silent for a long moment, his fingers steepled, calculating. Finally, he nodded slowly. Jun Seok has been loyal, effective, and has shown me that there are people worth more free than owned. The contract is voided. His debt is paid. He's free. The words hung in the air, impossible and real. Jun Seok stared at Kang with disbelief. Why? Because Dr. Okoro has taught me that some debts can't be paid with service, only with freedom. Kang's expression softened slightly, the first genuine emotion Imani had seen from him. And because 15 years is long enough for any man to be property, go, be free, be whole. After they left the restaurant, Jun Seok sat down hard on a bench outside, like his legs had stopped working. I'm free, he said, the words testing reality. After 15 years, I'm actually free. Imani sat beside him, taking his hands in hers. What will you do now? I don't know. He looked at their joined hands, dark and light, his scarred and hers soft. I've never had choices before, never had freedom. I don't even know what to do with it. You'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together. Together. Jun Seok pulled her into his arms, his face buried in her hair, his body shaking with emotions he'd suppressed for 15 years. I like the sound of that. They stayed like that for a long moment, two people who'd found each other in violence, learning what peace felt like. The fallout from Sung Ho's exposure was brutal and swift. Mr. Kang dealt with his brother's betrayal with the kind of ruthless efficiency that reminded everyone why he led the organization. Sung Ho and his loyalists were removed, permanently. The Huang organization watched with interest but didn't intervene. The neutral zone held, protected by both sides because both recognized its value. Imani's clinic continued, busier than ever. She treated fighters and enforcers, taught trauma recovery, showed broken people that healing was possible. And Jun Seok stayed, not as an enforcer, not as a fighter, but as her partner. In the clinic, in life, in building something that shouldn't exist but did anyway. 3 months after the restaurant meeting, Imani was treating a patient when she overheard two Huang enforcers talking in the waiting room. "I don't get it," one of them said in Korean, not realizing Imani understood the language perfectly. "Why does the boss respect her so much? She's just a fat doctor." "You're an idiot," the other one replied. "She's not just anything. She created a neutral zone in a gang war. She negotiated with both organizations and won. She got Jun Seok freed when everyone said it was impossible. And she did it all while people like you were underestimating her because of how she looks. Still nothing. Dr. Okoro is the most dangerous person in this clinic, and not because she carries a weapon, because she doesn't need one. She's got something better, respect earned through excellence. You want to keep underestimating her because she's fat? Go ahead, but don't be surprised when she outmaneuvers you at every turn." Imani smiled to herself and continued her work. That night, she told Jun Seok about the conversation while they cleaned the clinic together. "Does it bother you?" he asked. "That people still judge you based on your appearance?" Imani considered the question while she wiped down an exam table. "It used to. For years, I let other people's opinions make me feel small. I apologized for existing. I tried to make myself less threatening, less visible, less everything. And now? Now I realize that their underestimation is their problem, not mine. Every time someone dismisses me because I'm fat, they give me an advantage. They don't see me coming. They don't expect competence or strength or strategy, and by the time they realize their mistake, I've already won." Jun Seok moved behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. His hands rested on her soft stomach, not hiding, not apologizing, just holding. "You're magnificent," he murmured against her ear. "Every single part of you, the way you move through the world without permission, the way you refuse to shrink, the way you love with your whole heart even when it's dangerous." Imani leaned back into him, feeling safe and seen and wholly herself. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "A year ago, I was convinced I'd never find someone who could love me as I am, who wouldn't want me to change or lose weight or become someone different. I'd accepted that romance might not be for me. And now I have a former underground fighter telling me I'm magnificent while we clean a medical facility protected by 2 criminal organizations. Somehow, this became my life." Jun Seok laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "Is it the life you want?" Imani turned in his arms, looking up at him. "With you? Absolutely." They kissed, soft and deep, 2 people who'd found healing in each other's arms. "You know what we haven't done yet?" Jun Seok said when they broke apart. "What?" "Gone on an actual date, like normal people. Dinner, maybe a movie, walking around the city without worrying about territorial boundaries or gang politics." Imani laughed. "We're not exactly normal people." "No, but we could pretend for an evening. What do you say, Dr. Okoro? Will you go on a date with me?" "I thought you'd never ask." Their first real date was the following Friday. Jun Seok picked Imani up at her apartment, wearing civilian clothes instead of his usual dark enforcer attire. He'd chosen a Korean restaurant in a neighborhood far from any organizational territories. "You look beautiful," he said when she opened the door. Imani had chosen a dress that hugged her curves, deep purple that made her dark skin glow. She'd spent 20 minutes debating whether to wear it, old insecurities whispering that it was too tight, too revealing, too much. Then she'd remembered Jun Seok's hands on her body, reverent and appreciating, remembered his voice telling her she was magnificent, remembered that she didn't need to shrink herself for anyone anymore. "Thank you," she said, and meant it. The restaurant was small and intimate, family-owned, with food that reminded Jun Seok of his mother's cooking before everything went wrong. They talked about everything and nothing, childhood memories, favorite books, the dreams they'd given up and the ones they were building. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Imani said over dessert. Jun Seok considered this, his fingers playing with hers across the table. "I used to write poetry. Before everything. Before the fighting. Before the organization. I had notebooks full of it. Terrible teenage angst poetry, but it was mine." What happened to it? My father burned it all when he sold my contract. Said it was useless. Said I needed to focus on what I was good for. Violence. Imani's heart ached for the 17-year-old boy who'd lost his words, along with his freedom. Do you still write? Haven't in 15 years. Didn't think I had anything worth saying anymore. You do, Imani said firmly. You have 15 years of survival worth documenting. 15 years of pain and endurance and eventual healing. That's poetry, Jun Seok, the best kind. He looked at her with something soft and wondering in his eyes. You make me believe things are possible that I'd given up on. Good, because they are possible. All of it. Freedom, healing, love, poetry, a life that's yours to build. It's all possible now. They reached her apartment building, stood in the doorway like teenagers reluctant to end a perfect night. Can I come up? Jun Seok asked. Yes, Imani said without hesitation. Inside her apartment, they moved together, with the ease of people who'd learned each other's bodies through medical treatment, through healing work, through building trust, one careful touch at a time. Jun Seok kissed her like she was precious, his hands exploring her curves with reverence that made Imani feel beautiful in a way she'd never experienced before. Not beautiful despite her size, not beautiful if she changed, just beautiful. Period. I love you, he murmured against her skin. Every single part of you. Show me, Imani said. And he did. With hands and lips and whispered words of appreciation for her soft stomach, her thick thighs, every part of her that the world had told her to hide or change or apologize for. Jun Seok touched her like she was art, like her body was something to be celebrated, not tolerated, like her curves were exactly what he wanted, not something he was settling for. Afterward, they lay tangled together in her bed, moonlight streaming through the windows. You know what's funny? Imani said, tracing patterns on Jun Seok's chest. What? I spent so many years thinking I needed to change before I could be loved, thinking my body was an obstacle to overcome, thinking I'd only find romance if I became someone different. And then I met you, and you looked at me exactly as I am and decided I was worth saving, worth fighting for, worth loving. You didn't ask me to change. You asked me to stay. Jun Seok pulled her closer, kissed her forehead. That's because you're perfect as you are. Changing you would be like, I don't know, editing a masterpiece. Why would anyone do that? Imani laughed, felt tears prick her eyes. You're going to make me cry. Happy tears, I hope. The happiest. They fell asleep like that. Two people who'd found healing in each other, building a life that was theirs to define. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Drop a like, subscribe for more stories, and comment below telling me what you thought. Did Imani and Jun Seok's story resonate with you? Would you have made the same choices? Let me know, because I love hearing from you. Until next time, remember, you don't need permission to be yourself. You don't need to shrink for anyone. And you definitely don't need to apologize for existing. Be like Imani. Be dangerously idealistic. Be unapologetically yourself. Be whole. The world needs more of that.